Every GPU in every AI data center runs on a circuit board the size of a large coin. Inside every one of those boards is a material called ABF film, Ajinomoto Build-up Film. Yes, Ajinomoto, the company best known for MSG. The boards themselves are made by Ibiden, a Japanese company founded in 1902 to generate electricity from a river. And right now, Ibiden is the only company on Earth supplying the Aishi substrates that power NVIDIA's AI accelerators.
This is not a coincidence. This is how Japan works. Ibiden's headquarters are in Ogaki City, Gifu Prefecture, a mid-sized city between Nagoya and Kyoto that most people in Japan couldn't place on a map quickly. The company employs around 1,000 people globally. Its market cap sits at roughly $100 billion, modest, given that it sits at the center of the most important technology build-out of the decade. If you handed a list of NVIDIA's top suppliers to most investors, Ibiden probably wouldn't make the short list of guesses.
That's the gap this video is about to close. To understand why Ibiden matters, you first have to understand what a chip substrate actually is. When you buy an NVIDIA H100 the GPU die, the actual chip doesn't sit directly on the circuit board in your server. It sits on an intermediate structure, a small, dense package substrate covered in microscopic copper traces that bridges the chip's thousands of electrical contacts to the wider circuit board. Think of it as the translator between the chip's internal language and the rest of the computer.
As chips have gotten more complex, substrates have become brutally difficult to manufacture. AI accelerators like NVIDIA's H100 and B100 have thousands of connection points per square millimeter. The tolerances involved, fractions of a micron, require precision that approaches the limits of current manufacturing technology. This is a product that takes years to master. It's not something you spin up quickly in a new factory.
That barrier to entry is Ibiden's moat. The company didn't start there. Ibiden was founded in Shin-Chubak-Shirar on the banks of the Ibi River, hence the name, to harness hydroelectric power for a region that had none. For the better part of a century it was an industrial utility company, power generation, ceramics, building materials, carbon products. In Shin-Chubak-Shirar it entered printed circuit board manufacturing, riding Japan's electronics boom, unremarkable by the standards of the era.
The inflection point came in the 1990s, when Intel was scaling the Pentium processor and needed a reliable supplier for the substrates that would carry its chips. Ibiden got the contract. For the next 2 decades, Intel represented 60% of Ibiden's substrate revenue. The relationship was symbiotic and exclusive. Ibiden built out precision manufacturing for Intel spec parts. Intel provided the anchor customer that made the investment worthwhile.
That dependency became a strategic liability when Intel's server chip market share started eroding in the early 2020s. But Ibiden had something Intel's decline couldn't take away: the manufacturing capability itself. And by Arsene, a new anchor customer had arrived. NVIDIA's AI accelerators were scaling fast, faster than any other segment in semiconductor history. The substrates required were even more demanding than Intel's. Ibiden was one of the few companies on Earth that could make them.
According to reporting by Digitimes in early Borsin Arbiv, Ibiden became the sole ABF substrate supplier to NVIDIA for AI server applications. That's not a market share statistic, it's a binary. Either you can make this part to NVIDIA's specification, or you can't. Right now, Ibiden is one of the very few that can, and it holds the AI accelerator relationship outright.
The ABF film itself deserves its own moment. ABF stands for Ajinomoto Build-up Film, a dielectric material layered inside the substrate's internal structure to enable fine-pitch electrical routing. It was developed in Senkyū by Ajinomoto, Japan's largest food company, as a commercial application of epoxy resin technology the company had developed for other purposes. Every advanced processor substrate in the world, for servers, GPUs, high-end CPUs, uses ABF technology in its build-up layers.
That means Ajinomoto's production capacity is a literal constraint on how many AI chips the world can make. When Ibiden disclosed in late Nisan Arsawuv that it had secured enough ABF film for its current guidance but not yet enough to accommodate potential upside demand, the semiconductor industry paid attention. A food company's resin supply is the invisible ceiling on AI infrastructure scaling.
Ibiden's financial performance reflects the timing of this transition. In its fiscal third quarter through December, Artansor-Wiffle revenue rose 8% year-over-year to a record, with the electronics segment, which is almost entirely IC substrates, representing over 60% of sales. Operating margin reached 7% up from 10% IC substrates representing over 60% of sales. Operating margin reached 7% up from 10% IC substrates or Wiffle revenue
That investment is large. In February,
The broader market supports that view. According to industry analysis, the ABF substrate market was valued at roughly 2 billion in 2023 and is projected to reach 2 billion by 2029, growing at around 10% annually. AI server substrates require substantially more ABF material per unit than conventional PC chips. Some estimates put the differential at 10-1. Every H100 shipped is roughly 10 standard processors worth of substrate demand.
Ibiden isn't alone. The top 5 IC substrate manufacturers, Unimicron and Nanya from Taiwan, AT&S from Austria, and Shinko Electric from Japan alongside Ibiden, collectively control about 94% of global market share, according to market research from early 94%. None of them individually exceeds an 8% share. This is a market where a handful of highly specialized manufacturers have built walls around their process knowledge, and the AI industry has no good options for working around them.
If you want to keep up with stories like this, subscribe to the Japan Factor. The Japan Factor in Ibiden's story is the pattern of invisible industrial mastery that defines so much of Japan's economy at its best. This is a company that nobody in the venture capital world is pitching to you as a disruptor. It doesn't have a flashy product launch. Its name doesn't appear in the consumer press. It makes a component that most people, even in the technology industry, would struggle to describe.
And yet it is, by one fair accounting, one of the most strategically critical manufacturers on the planet right now. The AI hardware supply chain flows through a river city in Gifu, where a power company decided in the 1990s that chip substrates were worth learning.
Japan produces these companies at a rate that doesn't seem statistically possible. Keyence, Hoshizaki, Lasertech, Disco, and now Ibiden. Not as a new story, but as one that's been building for 3 decades, waiting for the right moment to become unmissable.
The question is, what happens when Ibiden's capacity comes online at full scale in Yusen Chi and Yusen Batien? If A demand grows as projected, the company's Wopakwin billion bet looks prescient. If the cycle turns before the factories fill up, it looks like a very expensive commitment to a bet that came early. Ibiden has made those kinds of bets before. In Chupikt Yusen, it bet on electricity for a rural region. In the 1990s, it bet on a single customer named Intel. The pattern of outcomes isn't bad.